Come on.
It's Matty Fresh on the track up at State, and I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate, Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and balling like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
Yo.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball. Got Nelly on this one. Penn State takes care of Washington 35-6 in the whiteout game, a game that was pretty much over at half. Penn State scored touchdowns on their first 4 drives. It was 28-0. Washington missed a field goal early. And that was pretty much it. Washington ended up going to the backup quarterback after half. Didn't do much for them. Penn State almost went up 35-0. Nick Singleton did return the opening kickoff of the second half back for a touchdown and got called back for a holding penalty. He was kind of MIA the rest of the game, but sounds like he's going to be good to go this week, which leads me to believe that it had to be something with cramping or something like that, where he had to go into the locker room, get fluid, something of that nature, because he was at practice Wednesday. James Franklin said he was confident he would play. So I don't know what went on there, but it seems like, it's just something that he had to go to the locker room for treatment for, and seems to be okay because he looked pretty good. The best he's looked in, honestly, over a month. And I don't want to say they need it this week against Purdue, but for Minnesota and then the hopeful playoff run, they're going to need him at 100% because the offense is just in a different gear. But overall, I think we all thought Penn State would win this game. I think it was a little more dominant early on than I expected, but just what were your overall thoughts on the game? Just really quick, though, it drove me crazy how Penn State's first 3 touchdown drives, or 3 of the first 4, were exactly what you would have wanted them to do on the goal line against Ohio State the week before. The Bo package gets in there, and Tyler Warren gets 2 rushing attempts, and both go for touchdowns. Drove me insane. Where was that last week? But other than that, can't complain about much.
Yeah, I thought, of course, 28-0, huge for us. We usually come out very flat this year, it seemed like. So I thought it was really good to see us come out 28-0, but then after halftime kind of stalled again, kind of did the opposite. But luckily with our defense, they played lights out again, so that was great to see. My biggest thing was honestly how good Drew did, and our wide receivers did pretty well against a secondary that isn't bad by any means. They're pretty decent or okay, I would say. And I thought Drew played one of his best games, and which is huge coming down the stretch. These should all be wins, but playing lights out and getting that confidence back up after that tough loss against Ohio State, not maybe playing his best game, will be huge going into the playoff run, hopefully. Of course, we still have 3 more games. Can't choke on any of those. So don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. But I thought overall it was a great game. Offense played great, but like you said, Singleton, he's still, I don't know, ever since freshman year, he hasn't been the same running back that we've seen. I know most people expect him to get better after freshman year, but he's kind of regressed in a way, more because of injuries, not because of him or the offensive line or anything. Luckily, we have Katron in the backfield, and Corey Smith who had that breakaway touchdown? Yeah, that was crazy. That would have been sick. It sucked, but anyways, overall, great game. I honestly, from being at Ohio State and Washington, I still think it was louder at Washington, probably because it was a night game and the whiteout, which of course probably should have been the week before, but whatever. But like you said, with the goal line, Franklin said after that Ohio State mishap, he's always going to give the ball to Warren. So I think from here on out, if we're at the 2-yard line, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is getting the ball, Tyler Warren's getting the ball, and it's even if it's going to be hard to stop. He'll jump over you, he'll run through you. So it was good to see overall. Great game. Defense, of course, 6 points. could have been 9. I mean, give or take, whatever. It missed a field goal, but overall, they played great. Abdul Carter's finally – he's, like, hitting his groove now. Like, I mean, back-to-back weeks with sacks and tackles for loss. He's always been that player on defense, but he hasn't showed up in the stats early on, I think, this year as much they would have liked. So it's good to see him come alive. So we'll see. Overall, great game. I mean, we should be okay for the rest of the way. But like you said, we can't sleep on anybody. We got Purdue this week, 3:30. It's kind of a night game by after halftime. So you kind of need to break it away early because if you keep it close and it turns into a night game, I mean, you know what happens in Purdue at night with top 4 seeds. So,
yeah. Abdul Carter, last 2 weeks, 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, a forced fumble. Really becoming that dude. I think he's up to 8 or 9 sacks on the season. So he's catching fire at the right time, which is huge because then Dennison's kind of still going through that injury, whatever that lower body strain was he got in the Wisconsin game. So he's not always in there, not always 100%. So, good that a Carter's kind of picked it up, obviously.
yeah.
And, Aller, too, like you mentioned, the big thing was he was really comfortable on third down. There was also that one that he made like a really good play out of the pocket and lobbed it to Warren. He just didn't get enough of his hand under it, and it was incomplete. But he made a lot of nice plays on third down and escaped the pocket. And, that was good to see, obviously. He looked mobile, which I know he had that, whatever that injury was coming off Wisconsin, that was a concern. Yeah. But he looked good, and they looked good on third down, which was nice to see. I mean, they got to get some of these other receivers involved, though. They tried to get Omari Evans involved on that end around, and I mean, it was productive because the guy ended up getting thrown out for targeting, so they got 15 yards, and Washington's better defensive players was out of the game.
Yeah.
But other than that, like he hasn't been targeted on a pass since the USC game, which is crazy. He's the fastest receiver they have. I think you got to start pushing the ball down the field to him, and I don't know if that's something you see against Purdue, but if you want to do something in the playoffs, I know like we could say a home game in December, you're going to want to run the ball like a million times, but being able to have that big play in your back pocket is something they need. So I think it's something that if you're looking for over the next 3 weeks, it's kind of the return of the big passing game, which we saw early on in the season, but kind of since Wisconsin and on, it's kind of disappeared.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like you said, we need to, I mean, maybe not show everything, of course, because, like, we're going to need stuff not being shown against who knows who we're playing, an SEC. I honestly hope it's an SEC opponent, but we'll get to that when we get there. But, like, we need someone else to step up. And wide receivers has only been really, I mean, our tight end, to be honest, like, Tyler Warren's been the most consistent all year. Harrison Wallace has kind of came back to himself the past 2 weeks, I think. He's been a lot more involved. Ohio State, he played good other than that pick in the end zone where it hit him in the hands, which just pissed me off because it should have been a touchdown. But, I mean, like, Fleming has done nothing this year. I mean, he's a good blocker and everything, but, like, he's done nothing, and it sucks because I was so hyped to have him. Like, I knew he was going to be, like, he left Ohio State for a reason. Like, he wasn't going to play.
Right.
But, like, I still thought he would have been more of a contributor to this offense than he's been. Liam Clifford's had every once in a while his game where he's been reliable at points. It's just once we get into those playoffs, like as long as we win out, which we should, someone's got to make plays because we're not going to just stop all of these teams on defense all the time. And our running game is always going to be there against elite defenses and D lines. Even though our O line's been phenomenal this year, I think. It's just not going to happen. You're going to get players that are better than what we're playing. So you're going to have to have something open up, which, like I said, Wallace's are probably your number one guy after Warren. But, like, the other was Ohio State, like, Warren's your leading rusher and then Singleton's your leading receiver. Like, that can't be a stat ever. No matter who you're playing, that can't happen. So something needs to change. I hope against Purdue, we start taking more shots downfield. Honestly, I would say these next few weeks, throw the ball more than run the ball. Since you have a banged up running back already, keep him, like, don't touch him unless you need him, honestly, and just throw the ball. Get it a heavy lead early, like this weekend, get the lead early and then take your starters out and keep them healthy and just control the game. But, I mean, like you said, yeah, we definitely need someone to step up, and we need the long game. We need a longer passing game. We can't just run slants all the time or out routes or just freaking plays to Warren. So we'll see what happens. I mean, against Purdue, I mean, the next team that really has like any secondary is Minnesota. They have a great safety. I've heard their secondary is okay, and Minnesota's probably the best opponent. Easily the best opponent we're going to finish with. So we'll see. But I mean, it sucks because we only got the scheduling this year kind of sucked. Unfortunately, like it's hard. It's not their fault. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you didn't know these teams were gonna all be this bad. But like, we only played Ohio State. And, like, we're getting so like written off because we played one good team. But it's probably I took them to win the national championship this year with the team they have. Probably gonna be in the Final Four at least, and we lost by a touchdown where we probably could have won that game at the goal line. It's just whatever. But anyway, it's just I don't know. It sucks because like I want to play someone else, but the Big Ten's so top heavy. It's either you play a elite team, one of the best teams, or you play nobody and just your win doesn't count. So
yeah, and the thing is, like, it's not Penn State's fault. I think we thought USC would be a lot better than they ended up being, especially after they beat LSU. I think we thought Wisconsin would take a step forward. Now I know their starting quarterback got hurt, so that played into that, but they weren't as good as we thought. I know Penn State's supposed to see Maryland. They just every year everyone says how Maryland's going to take this next step, and they never do. They already have 4 or 5 losses.
Yeah.
Minnesota's like middle of the pack, but like it's not Penn State's fault that a couple teams that were supposed to be decent and and maybe in the season ranked just fell apart.
Yeah.
They can only play who's on in front of them, and it's funny because like you kind of mentioned, there's 4 Big Ten teams that look poised to win at least 11 games, and then I don't know if there's another Big Ten team that's going to touch 9 wins.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting. You're either a top 5 team or you're not even ranked, which is the case with the Big Ten in the playoff rankings right now. So super weird year in the Big Ten, incredibly top heavy. It always has been, but now it seems worse. So it's just it's kind of funny, kind of interesting, kind of weird. I don't know if we'll ever see it like this again, but it's just how it's going to be because not everyone's really playing each other anymore. You're going to have teams that, get lucky with scheduling and teams that get super unlucky, like Purdue, super unlucky. Maybe they're not really as bad as their 1-8 schedule suggests because they got to play Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State, and they played Illinois and Wisconsin. So like they played 5 of the better teams. And I think they still might have Indiana. I'm not even sure, but
yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So I mean, they might finish the year 1-11, but they might have ended up facing 4 teams that end up in the top 8. You know what I mean? So like, it's just you don't know how good some teams are. You don't know how bad some teams are because there's so much uneven distribution with the schedule. So it's just how it's going to be going forward, and I'm sure eventually even more teams are going to be added in 5 years, and it's going to be even crazier. But as for right now, that's just the reality of the situation. And another team I didn't bring up, like Washington, who Penn State just beat, was in the national championship last year. Now they're looking at like a 6-loss season. So it's not Penn State's fault that they really haven't played anyone a lot. And West Virginia too. Like we thought they were coming off a 9-win season last year. Thought maybe they get to 8, 9, 10 wins this year. That doesn't look likely. So, it's not Penn State's fault that all these teams fell apart is what I'm saying. So I think it's stupid how people are mad that Penn State's 4 in the rankings. I think, saying they didn't play anyone. There's nothing they can really do about that when preseason it looked like they were going to face about 4 or 5 tough teams. And the reality is they faced one team that ended up being really good, and maybe Minnesota's decent. So, I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of funny, though, because people change the narrative so quick. Because we go into West Virginia week 1, everyone has this upset alert, we're losing.
Right.
We go in there, stomp them. West Virginia actually sucks. And then it goes to Illinois at home. It's not that we were on upset alert, but they were a good team. Everybody was giving them credit. and
Right.
then they lose to us, and then they lose another game, and now they suck. And then it's USC. We go to USC. They're not that bad. When we're playing them, they're not that bad. Everybody's like upset alert again. We go in there, lucky win, but we still win, and now that game doesn't count. So it's just like week after week, we'll get told that's a trap game or probably a loss or something, and then once we do win, they sucked anyway. And then we play Ohio State. Oh, you guys always lose to Ohio State. Like, I get it. Yeah, it sucks. Like, yeah, it sucks losing to Ohio State all the time. But we're losing
Yeah.
to a top 4 team every year. Like, at least it's losing to a top 4 team. We're not losing to a mediocre team we're losing to a team that's in the playoffs and winning the Big Ten most of the time. So like it's just annoying. Like I want to hopefully we are on track to make the playoffs. We get that home game. I really want an Ole Miss rematch like they predicted, but that probably won't be happening. Like it's so much still to go on that like the seeding will probably change, but I really want like an SEC opponent to come to Beaver and see like how they would deal like in the freezing cold, probably a whiteout again. Hopefully at night-ish time, like that place will be rocking. I just want to stop a team. Like we need it so bad as a program too, like just to have at least one playoff win against an elite team where people just stop talking about how we can't beat any teams just because it's Ohio State and Michigan. The past years, Michigan won the Natty. Sorry, God forbid we lost a national championship, and then we lose to Ohio State, who also goes like 11-1. So like it's annoying just because the narrative will never change. And now like we added teams, but like now of course they are on the downhill fall. Washington lost their head coach, lost like most of their great players. Now they have to rebuild. USC, they're getting recruits, but like Lincoln Riley, I don't know how much more he had, like how much longer he's got there if he doesn't produce something, because he just keeps doing it. He gets the recruits, but team can't perform at all. And it's just like, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm hoping this playoffs, hopefully we make it, of course. I don't want to jinx us. Like, we need to win. We're kind of overlooking. I hope we're not overlooking Purdue just because they're 1-8. Like, it shouldn't be close, but like, you never know. Mm-hmm. So we'll see though. It's exciting though. This year, we finally even if we do choke, which I don't think we will, we're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So like, it's finally nice to like be relieved that like we're good, unless somehow Ohio State beats Indiana and Ohio State loses to Michigan, and we have to go to the Big Ten championship. Like, I don't even know how that, like, do they count championships against you? Like, that's I don't see how that's fair because, like, if 8 teams make the championship, so you're going to say those losses count as a loss, but the other 7 teams in the playoffs that didn't make it doesn't matter. Like, they have one less game played. That's where I'm a little iffy about. Someone was like, dude, we're going to make the Big Ten championship. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, Ohio State's not losing to Michigan. No. If they lose to Michigan, Ryan Day better be fired after the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think if that happens, Indiana goes 11-1, Penn State goes 11-1. Also. Yeah, I don't know how that works, but yeah, Michigan or Ohio State might be out of the playoff. But yeah, that's
not going to happen. But there's a very slim chance ever that would happen. But we saw it also the year when we did win the Big Ten. We needed like crazy stuff to happen. It somehow happened. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Just getting to Purdue really quick. This defense is bad. I'm gonna read off like the scores that teams with a pulse put up on them this year. Notre Dame 66, Oregon State 38, Wisconsin 52, Illinois 50 in overtime, Oregon 35, Ohio State 45. I think 40 points needs to be the bare minimum in this game. This defense is trash. I think I saw over like the last 6 games, they've given up at least 260 or averaging 260 passing yards given up a game. And for the season, I think their rush defense is right around 200 yards given up. So they're bad everywhere. This is a great game for everyone to go off. And if you could just get up 20, a deep 20, early 30s type score in the first half and just rest everyone, that would be great. But this is the game, I think, to push it down the field, try to get some explosive runs with Singleton. I don't know. They might opt to just sit him all together. I don't know. They might keep him on the bench, and if it gets close in the second half for some reason and he needs to play, that maybe they do that. But this is definitely the game for everyone to get explosive on offense because Purdue's defense is the worst in the Big Ten, and it's bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the game. Get it started. You're in the end of the season right now. If you want to start getting hot, get the confidence going. This is the game to get your, I guess, not as great performers this year to start going. Like Julian Fleming, hopefully give him some targets, get him going. Like spread it away from Tyler Warren unless he needs the ball. Unless we need to give him the ball. Honestly, I don't want him hurt. He doesn't need to catch the ball. He's already got the most receiving yards. Was it in a single season? I don't even know. I think at Penn State
for a tight end.
Yeah.
It's close.
Okay. Yeah, but he'll get it either way. But I'm just saying we just spread the ball, let Drew throw it, and then get the lead. The defense, if their defense, if Wisconsin's putting up 50, I want to say we should put up 50, but also Oregon put up 35. So bare minimum. I don't want Purdue scoring 10 points on us, and I don't want to not score less than 35. It needs to be a domination right when it starts.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I think we should be fine, though. I mean, like you said, they're the worst defense. We got issues, then, we do. We aren't an elite team. If we lose, whatever, then we know.
And on the other side of the ball, they only put up 7 on Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They only put up 10 on Nebraska. They only put up 6 on Wisconsin. Now, they scored 49 on Illinois. I don't know where that came from.
That was hilarious. That was crazy game.
That was crazy. I don't know where that really came from. But, I mean, they scored 0 on Oregon and scored 0 on Ohio State. So
that should be us. That's what it should be.
That tells me that, the median score of this game should be 42-7, 42-10, 45-10, somewhere in there. If you're just kind of taking – what they usually give up to teams with a pulse versus what they put up versus teams with a pulse. They shouldn't get over 10, and Penn State shouldn't score under 40, at least 38, I'd say. But
yeah, I agree. We'll see. I was winning 42-3, so
that's I was 42-7, so somewhere in there. That's the thing. They gotta play some young guys, especially at linebacker. I mean, they have 3 linebackers they trust, and it's really 2.5 because Tony Rojas is definitely hurt. It's Kobe King, Dom DeLuca, and they clearly hurt Tony Rojas. I mean, it's not great there. They got to figure something out with the backup linebackers.
Well, who do we bring? We were talking about this early in the season when Landon came on. Who do we bring down? He was a safety, but we brought him to linebacker.
Dakari Nelson.
Has he played at all or no?
He hasn't really. They were starting to play him there, and he really hasn't shown up since before the Wisconsin game. Their rotations got super tight around the Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed since. So I don't know if this week it changes a little bit. Hopefully it does. I mean, they should be in position for that to be the case, but they got to try some different things with backup linebackers because there's not a lot there right now. And man, if one of these 3 guys really goes down, they are super screwed. DeLuca's dealt with some things. Rojas is clearly dealing with some things, but those 3 guys have played pretty decent. Rojas is clearly not where he should be because of this injury, whatever it is. But other than that, drop off is bad. They got to find a couple bodies that they can go to if needed. And I think that's, for me on defense, that's the big thing to look for is trying to find some more guys at linebacker.
Yeah, no, for sure. We definitely need some more linebackers. I mean, Kobe King, we said in the beginning of the season, he's always a name that you didn't really hear make crazy plays, but he doesn't make mistakes, and he's been phenomenal this year, I think, personally. He's all over the field. He's doing his job. But like you said, Rojas is hurt. It sucks that whatever happened with Keys happened, and he would have been huge to have this year.
Yeah.
Because he's already a good player. So, just having him as an extra body would have been huge. So that sucks. So, I mean, we have DeLuca and Rojas who have both been injured. And then we have King, who's been okay, God forbid, knock on wood. But, like, if King goes down, we are absolutely screwed. We have nobody. And we're going to get stomped on by good teams. So,
Yeah, it's definitely a concern with teams that can run the ball well.
yeah.
Now, the D-line has been awesome, which is kind of it helps that the D-line is good and the safeties are really good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of covered up for the problems in the run game. But if KJ Winston wasn't hurt, this would be so much easier because Reed could go down into that line position and pretty much play linebacker. And, kind of like he had a huge game week 1 against West Virginia because he was down on the line. He was pretty much playing linebacker because Winston was back there.
Yeah.
So, not having him has also hurt the linebacking situation to an extent. So that's the one thing I'm really looking for on defense. And on offense, you kind of brought this up, like, don't go to Tyler Warren if you don't need him. One of these other tight ends has to do something. I know Rappley was supposed to be that guy, and he's out for the year. But Dinkins has been here long enough, and I know Reynolds is young, but he had the huge recruiting pedigree. Someone's got to be able to make some plays at the tight end position, not named Warren, because, you'd like to limit his workload as much as possible the next 3 weeks. But then, God forbid something happens to him. You really need someone who could step up because we know how bad the receivers are.
Yeah. So, I agree totally. I mean, we need someone to step up on offense, defense, just keep them healthy. If you get that lead, honestly, keep the good players out. I mean, we need to be healthy. So that's the biggest thing.
Definitely. All right, so that's going to do it for this one. Not too much to get into with Purdue, obviously 1-8. Hopefully we're talking about a big win, and then we'll be talking about the Minnesota game, which is going to be the biggest game remaining for Penn State in kind of the last maybe big hurdle for them to get into the playoff and finish 11-1. So we'll be back next week to talk about that.